So what'd you catch?
Hit the mother lode today.
You've got to be kidding. Do I even need the gauge? I haven't seen fish this big in years.
Okay, it's not this bad, but fishing today simply isn't what it used to be. Almost 1/3 of U.S. fish stocks are overexploited, threatening the future of sport and family fishermen. Yet at the same time, our government is proposing to weaken necessary protections. This shouldn't happen. Please call your local member of Congress before we end up like this.
You think of what I'm thinking?
Mm-hmm.
I looked out on the ocean, there were whales blowing and tide rips up ahead and the mountains and the sun, and I thought, this is it. I can't go anywhere else. And it was good. It was like being home.
I live about a mile from the ocean. I sail on it. I dive under it. I swim in it. I walk along it. It's a big part of my life.
It never ceases to amaze me how incredible it is, the amount of life in it, what you can see on a given day. It's one of the last great mysteries, I think, that's out there.
Fishing is an American tradition that dates back hundreds of years. Americans eat over 4.5 billion pounds of seafood each year. There are more than 9 million saltwater sport fishermen nationwide, an economic engine worth about $30 billion annually. And commercial fishing fuels the economies of local communities around the nation.
Some years in the town of 1500 I live, the 20-some fishermen that are there, we bring $2-3 million from outside into that economy.
Yet, this American tradition is in trouble. According to the National Marine Fisheries Service, roughly 1 in every 3 fish populations assessed by scientists is overfished. Scientists say that only 10% of ocean predator fish, such as marlin, sharks, tuna, and swordfish, are left. A federal commission appointed by Congress to study the health of our oceans concluded, after 3 years of research, that our oceans, coasts, and Great Lakes are in trouble, and major changes are urgently needed in the way we manage them.
The U.S. Commission on Ocean Policy spent a long time listening to a lot of people in the United States. They came out with a very detailed report about what they felt were the problems with our oceans and coastal ecosystems and what needed to be done.
It was important because President Bush appointed these folks. There was no environmentalists, there was no fishermen, it was mostly an industry group and academics. And to have these sort of folks point out there's serious problems with our oceans that need to be addressed immediately, I think was very important.
Here's the problem. Our nation's largest public resource is being managed with a short-term vision, immediate economic gain. The long-term cost has been the health of our oceans, and by extension, the future of the economies that depend on them.
I mean, I used to catch codfish, 12 miles out, 6 miles out. You go all over the ocean to catch any now.
We see that year after year, the target catch levels recommended by scientists have been exceeded by factors of 200, 300%. And there's only so long that fish stocks can sustain that type of fishing pressure.
But I think there has been some decline in some stocks, and fishermen are beginning to see that, it's just not as good as it was, back when I was a kid or during my father's time or something like that. And that's kind of sad, but I think it serves as a wake-up call as well that things can be done to help make things better.
The system we use to manage our fisheries today was created decades ago, at a time when oceans seemed an endless frontier with an inexhaustible supply of fish. The goal then was this: to stop foreign vessels from overfishing U.S. waters. So Congress passed a law to prevent foreign vessels from fishing within 200 miles of the U.S. coastline.
And we needed to fish our own fish instead of letting foreign trawlers fish our fish. And that's what the Magnuson-Stevens Act was designed to do originally. Since that time, our fisheries have changed. We've grown our domestic fishery, we've overgrown it.
The law established 8 regional councils to make all fishery management decisions around the country. These councils carry out the rules of our main fisheries law, the Magnuson-Stevens Fishery Conservation and Management Act. Congress wanted American fishermen to play a substantial role in fishery decisions. Lawmakers exempted conflict of interest rules, standard for all other governmental bodies, so that fishermen could participate as council members. Today, roughly 60% of appointed council members have a direct financial interest in fisheries they manage.
You get a bunch of people in the meeting room that are 55 years old, and they want 5 more years. And then the next thing you know, the guys that were young, it gets to be 10 years, and they want 5 more years. I don't think you see problems addressed. You know what I'm saying? But that's the system. What I've seen in the council, it was all about stalling. But, I mean, not that I wasn't part of it, but I mean, that's the way it is.
You can't always go by what fishermen know about the species because they have a vested interest, so they always have spin on what they're doing, you know. There's all that self-interest that's involved. And supposedly, best science doesn't have self-interest. It has interest of the species, of the stock, of the environment.
American fishing did prosper under the law, but the economic good times would not last. By the late 80s, fish populations were plummeting from constant overfishing. Fishermen were killing large amounts of bycatch, ocean wildlife unintentionally caught in nets or other fishing gear. And indiscriminate tools such as trawl nets were causing widespread destruction of essential fish habitat.
Protecting habitat is important because fish need a home, and so many people just think, well, they need water, but they also need all the structure in the water, especially when they're young.
Congress passed the Sustainable Fisheries Act in 1996 to address these problems. The new act put in place conservation measures to stop overfishing and to protect the larger marine environment. Many of the councils, however, failed to fully implement the new law. Instead, they found ways around the measures that might limit their catch or require changing their fishing habits.
I don't see much management, to be honest with you. I see reactions to problems, that's all I see. That's, I don't think anybody should be patting themselves on the back.
I've got a 5-year-old grandson that wants to maybe someday fish, and if I catch them all, he won't have any to catch. If it's left alone and managed right, there'll always be fish.
To solve this crisis demands a common-sense approach to fishery management, one that relies on the best available science. That's the approach taken by the North Pacific Council, which governs fisheries around Alaska. Guided by science, its management practices have produced some of the most sustainable fisheries in the country.
You look at the health of the fisheries in Alaska and compare it to the health of the fisheries in the Gulf of Mexico or New England, and the difference is night and day.
The practice in the North Pacific is not to allow the policymakers to set the fishing limit above what's biologically safe. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that the North Pacific has done to curb overfishing.
Congress is once again considering changes to the Magnuson-Stevens Act. The U.S. Commission on Ocean Policy has recommended many improvements for fisheries management, and lawmakers must take crucial steps now to ensure a healthy future for our oceans. Congress should do 4 things. First, and most important, base all management decisions on the best available science. Second, include more members of the public on the fishery management councils. Third, allow council members to participate in discussions, but not to vote in management decisions where they have a direct financial interest. Fourth, promote cooperative research between fishermen and scientists.
I think you'll find that the majority of the fishermen that are out there today We know what we've done in the past, and we're trying to fix it, and they know that the science community is trying to fix it also, and we've joined into a real close working partnership. And the best ecologist in the world and the best conservationist in the world is a fisherman, because he wants to fish tomorrow.
I think it's really important that Congress preserve what they've already done for fisheries conservation, which is to prevent overfishing, protect habitat, end wasteful fishing practices, and provide for community-based fisheries into the future.
Our oceans have offered us sustenance, enjoyment, and a way of life. They will continue to do so if we manage them with care, but we must take the right steps now.
Long-term survivability of all of us depends on taking care of the stocks, no matter what stocks we're talking about.
It's going to take a long time to put this back together, but we can do it, and we will do it, because we're just not going to let the ocean die.
This is an extremely important matter for coastal communities and people who make their living on the sea.
I think it's incumbent upon us to pass along to other generations a world that's better than it was when we got it.